Imagine being locked away for a crime you didn't commit, only to face a nightmare worse than prison walls. 3 young girls, innocent and full of life, pushed to the edge by a monster in uniform. What they did next will make you question, is revenge ever truly justice? Stick around. This story from Forgotten Village will grip your heart and leave you thinking long after it's over. If you ever felt the sting of injustice or wondered how far you'd go to protect your dignity, this tale is for you. Hit that like button if you believe stories like this teach us the hardest lessons. Subscribe for more gripping moral fables, and let's dive in. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you. Nestled in the embrace of towering mountains, the village of Haripur was a world unto itself. About 500 humble homes dotted the landscape, where the air carried the scent of fresh earth and wildflowers. Each morning, as the sun's golden rays spilled over the peaks like molten honey, the village stirred to life. Farmers trudged to their fields, buckets sloshing with well water, while children's laughter echoed to the narrow lanes like birdsong. In the heart of it all stood an ancient temple, its weathered stones a gathering place for evening prayers and shared stories. The villagers knew one another like family. Gossip traveled faster than the mountain winds. Ruling over this tight-knit community was Sarpanch Ramlal, a stern 60-year-old with a voice like thunder and eyes that missed nothing. His word was law. No one dared question it. On the outskirts, by the rippling edges of the farms, sat the village jail, a squat, forgotten building with 2 tiny cells, their iron bars pitted with rust. Crime was rare here, so the jail often stood empty, a silent sentinel against a rare outburst of trouble. Our story centers on 3 inseparable friends, Neha, Moni, and Lena. They shared a modest home on the village edge, their bond forged in the fires of youth and shared dreams. Neha, at 20, was the bold one, tall with flowing dark hair that caught the light like silk, her eyes sparkling with an adventurous fire that made her seem unbreakable. Why settle for the ordinary? She'd often say, her laughter ringing out as she led the others on impromptu explorations through the hills. Moni, 19, was quieter, her thoughtful gaze always drifting to the horizon. With her soft features and gentle hands, she spent evenings weaving tales in her mind, pondering life's deeper mysteries. And then there was Lena, the youngest at 18, innocent as a spring lamb, with a smile that could melt the hardest heart. Her wide eyes held a childlike wonder, and she found joy in the simplest things, like sketching flowers in the dirt. Their days were simple but content, toiling in the fields under the warm sun, the earth cool and yielding beneath their fingers, then gathering in the evenings to share stories and giggles over steaming cups of chai. Life flowed like the nearby stream, peaceful, predictable. But one fateful day, everything shattered. Whispers spread to the village like wildfire. Silver jewelry had vanished from the temple's sacred altar. Sarpanch Ramlal, his face twisted in righteous fury, pointed the finger at the 3 girls. "Thieves!" he bellowed in the village square, his voice echoing off the mountains. The girls stood there, stunned, their hearts pounding like trapped birds. Neha's eyes flashed with defiance. "We didn't do it. We've never even touched those jewels." But Moni's quiet pleas and Lena's tear-streaked face fell on deaf ears. No evidence was needed. Ramlal's accusation was enough. The villagers, bound by tradition, nodded in grim agreement. That very evening, the girls were dragged to jail, the cold iron bars clanging shut behind them like a death knell. Inside those dim cells, the air hung heavy with a musty scent of damp stone. At first, their jailer was Sushila, a 35-year-old woman with a no-nonsense demeanor but a hidden sense of fairness. Her strict rules were tempered by small kindnesses. Fresh breakfast of warm rotis and lentils each morning, simple lunches, and evening tea that steamed invitingly. The small courtyard offered brief respites, where Sushila allowed them to walk under the open sky. "Justice will prevail," she'd say with a rare smile, her voice steady as she handed Neha a cup. For 2 months, it was bearable. Neha cracked jokes to lighten the mood. "Hey, Sushila, when we get out, we'll bake you the best sweets in Haripur," drawing chuckles even from their stern guardian. Moni sat in the courtyard, staring at the clouds drifting like forgotten dreams, whispering to herself, "One day, this will all make sense." Lena, in her innocence, traced happy pictures on the cell walls with her fingers, humming tunes to chase away the shadows. Then everything darkened. Sushila was transferred, and in her place came Kishan Reddy, a hulking 40-year-old man with a thick build, skin darkened by years under the sun, and eyes that gleamed with cunning cruelty. His face bore the hard lines of a man who relished power, his lips curling into a sneer that revealed yellowed teeth. The moment he laid eyes on the girls, his gaze lingered too long, tracing their youthful forms with a hunger that made their skin crawl. "Fresh meat," he muttered under his breath, his voice a low growl that echoed in the empty jail. That night, as the village slumbered under a blanket of stars, a new horror began. The moon cast silvery shadows through the bars as Kishan crept in, the key turning with a sinister click. He entered the cell, his breath hot and foul, like rotten earth. The girls froze, hearts hammering. He lunged first at Neha, his rough hands clamping over her mouth to stifle her screams, tearing at her clothes with savage force. She thrashed, her nails raking his arms. But he slapped her hard, the sting blooming across her cheek like fire. No, this can't be happening, Neha thought, her mind a whirlwind of rage and terror. Moni and Lena huddled in the corner, tears streaming. But he turned to them next, his laughter a guttural rumble that drowned their pleas. Night after night, this nightmare repeated. His threats hissed in the darkness. "Tell anyone, and I'll make your lives a living hell. No one will believe thieves like you." The girl's world crumbled. Neha's adventure sparked dim to a smoldering fury, her body aching from bruises. How much more can we take? She wondered, staring at the blood-stained walls in the moonlight. Moni's thoughtful silence turned to haunted whispers, her dreams poisoned by flashbacks. Lena's innocent smile faded, replaced by wide-eyed fear. She clung to her friends, sobbing softly. "Why us? What did we do wrong?" After weeks of this torment, Neha's patience snapped like a brittle branch. In the dim afternoon light, as they whispered in the courtyard, she leaned in close, her voice fierce but low. "Enough! We can't let this monster destroy us. We fight back or we die inside these walls." Moni's eyes met hers, nodding slowly, her hands trembling but resolute. "You're right. For our dignity." Even Lena, usually so timid, straightened her back, wiping her tears. They hatched a desperate plan. During lunch, Neha slipped a sharp fork spoon hybrid into her sleeve, its metal cold against her skin. That evening, their eyes burned with a mix of fear and determination. No more victims. As night fell, the village quiet. Kishan approached again, his footsteps heavy on the stone floor. He unlocked the cell, his grin predatory, advancing on Neha. But this time, she was ready. With a primal cry, she lunged, driving the fork into his eye. He howled, staggering back, blood spurting like a crimson fountain. Moni and Lena pounced, grabbing his arms, their grips iron despite their exhaustion. Neha struck again, the fork slicing his neck in a gush of warm blood. He crumpled, gurgling, but the girls' rage unleashed. They hacked and tore until the cell floor was a slick pool of red, pieces scattered like a butcher's nightmare. Panting, covered in gore, they collapsed against the wall. "It's over," Neha thought, a hollow victory echoing in her chest. But at what cost? The next morning, a guard's scream shattered the silence. Police swarmed the jail, the village buzzing with shock. The girls confessed everything. The false accusation, the nightly horrors, their desperate act. The trial was swift. Villagers packed the courtroom, some whispering sympathy, others demanding punishment. Evidence of the murder was undeniable. Kishan's mangled remains a gruesome testament. The judge, bound by law, sentenced them to hang. Justice must be blind, he intoned, but his voice wavered. On a chilling dawn, ropes tightened around their necks. Neha lifted her chin defiantly. Moni closed her eyes in quiet acceptance. Lena whispered a final prayer. With a jolt, it ended. The village fell silent, hearts heavy. In their final stand, the girls exposed a rod of unchecked power, but paid the ultimate price. The moral? Courage in the face of injustice demands everything. Yet true change comes not from vengeance alone, but from a society that listens before it's too late. Blind obedience to flawed leaders breeds monsters. Only collective empathy can heal the wounds. In the end, it wasn't the girl's revenge that echoed loudest, but the village's lingering doubt. Was their punishment fair? What if we believed them sooner? Stories like this remind us courage isn't always rewarded, but it's a spark that exposes darkness. What do you think? Does fighting back make heroes, or just more victims? If this fable stirred something in you, smash that like button and subscribe for more tales that challenge the soul. Drop a comment below. What's the darkest moral story that stuck with you? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Stay brave out there.